Welcome back to English from A to Z, English in real life. All right, today we're tackling something huge. We are diving headfirst into an explosive claim that connects the world of crypto with the single largest debt in history. It's an accusation that the United States is secretly, quietly planning a massive financial reset. So get this. This is the statement that kicked off this whole conversation, and it's from Anton Kobiakov, who happens to be a senior advisor to Russia's president. He's claiming that the U.S. plans to push its entire $37 trillion debt into some kind of crypto cloud and then basically just wipe the slate clean. Now, it sounds like a wild conspiracy theory, right? But what if there's a mechanism behind it that could actually work? Just look at that number. Let it sink in for a second. It's a figure so vast, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around it. And according to this claim, the plan is to devalue every single dollar of that mountain of debt. So the man making this claim, Anton Kobiakov, he's not just some random commentator. He's advised Vladimir Putin for over a decade. And he didn't just tweet this, he said it at a major economic forum. That tells you this isn't just an off-the-cuff remark. It's very likely part of Russia's official messaging. Okay, so you hear this phrase, devaluing debt, and it sounds super complicated. But what does it actually mean? It isn't as simple as just refusing to pay what you owe. No, it's a much more subtle strategy, one that governments have been using for centuries to lighten their financial load.
The core idea is actually pretty simple. You pay back exactly what you owe, but you do it with money that's worth a whole lot less than it was when you first borrowed it. Let's walk through a really simple analogy to see exactly how this works. Okay, let's simplify things way down. Imagine that the entire economy of the whole world is just this one single $100 bill, and I borrow it from you. But here's the twist. Instead of going out and working to earn that $100 back, I have a special power as the person who issues the currency. I can just print a new one. So all of a sudden, there are $200 in the world, but the same amount of actual stuff, cars, food, houses, is exactly the same. When you have twice the money chasing the same amount of goods, what happens? Prices double. Then I come back and I repay you your $100. Now, technically, the debt is paid. I gave you what I owed you, but your money now only buys half as much as it did before. My debt has been successfully devalued. And what we've just described, well, that has a name you definitely know. It's called inflation. More money flowing into the system means prices go up and the purchasing power of your money goes down. Your dollar just buys less than it used to. And listen, this isn't some new theory. This is literally history. The U.S. used this exact strategy to handle its debt after World War II, again in the 1970s, and more recently after the pandemic when a flood of new money sent prices through the roof. So if this trick is so old, where does crypto even fit into this? Well, Russia's claim hinges on stablecoins. These are the digital tokens that are pegged to the US dollar, and they offer a powerful, brand new way to take this old strategy and make it global. But you might be asking, if the US government already uses inflation with the regular dollar, why are stablecoins suddenly such a game changer? The answer is all about who feels the pain. See, with normal inflation, it's Americans who feel the pinch at the gas pump and the grocery store, and that can create huge political problems at home. But with a global stablecoin system, that pain gets exported. The loss of purchasing power is shared by anyone, anywhere in the world, who happens to be holding a digital dollar.
So here's how it would work. People all over the world start using digital dollars. The companies that issue these tokens have to back them up with U.S. Treasury bonds, which creates this massive built-in global demand for U.S. debt. So when the U.S. inflates the dollar, those bonds lose value, and so do the stablecoins. It effectively becomes a hidden tax on every single person holding them all around the world.
As you can probably guess, the rest of the world sees this coming. There's a growing distrust, a real wariness, and countries are already starting to take defensive actions.
And you don't even have to take my word for it. Just look at what central banks are actually doing. They're not buying more dollar assets. No, they're buying physical gold. It is a crystal clear signal that they prefer a hard, tangible asset over digital tokens that are just backed by promises. And this skepticism, it's rooted in history. The US used to promise that every single dollar was backed by and redeemable for gold. Then, in 1971, President Nixon unilaterally broke that promise. It was basically a rug pull on a global scale. So now, when the world is asked to trust a new digital dollar, it kind of feels like a trap. Okay, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. An overt government-led crypto reset seems pretty unlikely because of all this global distrust we've been talking about. But what if there's a quieter, more subtle backdoor strategy that's already in play? You can think of it like two different paths. On one hand, you have the loud plan. This is where you see figures like Michael Saylor telling the government to sell its gold and just buy Bitcoin, a move that would probably cause global panic. But on the other hand, there's the quiet backdoor plan. You let private companies lead the way. It's gradual, it's subtle, and most importantly, it's deniable. This backdoor strategy gives the government what's called plausible deniability, all while avoiding a market panic. It can just let the private sector take all the risks, figure out what works, and then simply adopt the winning strategy later on. And there's even historical precedent for this, like when the US government took a stake in Intel way back when. So this suggests that the Russian advisor, he might actually be right about the destination, a new digital asset system to help manage US debt. But he might just be wrong about the vehicle. The change won't be some loud, top-down government mandate, but a quiet, slow absorption of private innovation. This quote just perfectly captures the American strategic playbook. You let the private sector innovate, you let them build and take risks. And when a technology becomes too important to ignore, it gets absorbed by the state. Which leaves us with one final really big question. As all these private companies are busy building the rails for a parallel financial system, one based on digital assets, a system that might just become too big to fail, is official government adoption just a matter of when, not if?